Okay, I have another one. Another Reap of Faith review. And this is something I really wanted to do because the last Reap of Faith gloves that I had, I love so much. Probably one of my favorite gloves for the price, for everything. Such a great glove that I just kind of wanted to make sure I got a different model. This is the Reap of Faith, the Aztec God of War model, the AGOW. I got these in 16 ounces. And they are essentially in this green and gold colorway, which I really like. On their site, before we kind of get started, um, they didn't have any left essentially in 16 ounces. Like, so I know that like 16 ounce indicator here is really nice. Just FYI, I really do like this indicator. So basically, I had to beg and plead and try to find the pair of gloves that they had that were in stock, and they didn't have any. They had a pair that was a little damaged and had some kind of cosmetic issues that they took off the site because they didn't believe that it met their standards, which is a really good thing. But I still begged for them, and essentially I got them, and they discounted me and everything, even though, they didn't necessarily want to sell them, but I begged them enough because I was more into the performance of the glove more than the aesthetics of a specific glove that they didn't want to sell because they didn't think it met the standards. So there are some imperfections with the glove, more so on the leather side. You'll probably see some lines here, and you'll probably see a little scratch here on this portion of the glove, but they're very minimal things, and I don't care much about it. I just care more about the performance and reviewing how these gloves perform at the end of the day. So these gloves made in Pakistan, designed in Taiwan. This glove, in terms of the weight, I think they came in pretty solid. Let me see real quick. Let's see it. Okay. So this one's 15.94, and this one is going to be 50. Let's try it again. 15.84. So a smidge under, but it's really not even a big deal at the end of the day. It's so close to weight that it's not a big deal. We're looking at 15.9s essentially, and that's very close to 16 ounces. So at the end of the day, I'm okay with that. In terms of the leather of the glove, this glove is 100% full grain cowhide leather, and it's pretty good. When you feel it and touch it, it has this nice thickness to it. It's soft, it's supple, and it has a nice thick amount of leather to it. Very durable. I've come to see that a lot of gloves are doing really well with the leather. Doesn't necessarily matter where they're from, but in terms of the leather, it has a nice thick and nice premium type of feel to it. The leather is actually pretty nice. For the price point, it's really nice. So keep that in mind. The liner, I know the last glove that I did, which was the Super Samurai, the extra EVA foam version of it. It has a nylon liner in the back portion of the glove, and it has tricot on the front portion of the glove where it meets your wrist and the palm area. And they did it before because apparently it's supposed to help you get into the glove, slide into the glove easier, but also maintain, once your hands are in there, it sticks in there because of the friction of the tricot liner. Now this feels different though. It could still be nylon, I don't know, but it has a silkier feel, a little more baggy, a little more silky, if you could see it. And I'll actually compare it to the other ones so you can understand what I'm talking about when in terms of the differences. See, this one has a thicker, like a more rough texture on the back end when it comes to the back portion of the liner. This is nylon, and this is the same kind of soft material. Here is the tricot. Now here you'll see that it's like a silkier, and I can't make that same noise. So feels kind of like a polyester liner. But yeah, I'm not sure necessarily, but it's a different liner than the other ones that I just showed. So there's a lot of differences in terms of this glove and that glove, which is interesting because I thought that looking at the photos, they would have a similar, they look similar in terms of the photos, but when you get them in person, they're definitely different. In terms of the padding, this is a multi-layer padding that has a horsehair, a artificial horsehair, essentially padding. Now it's an artificial padded horsehair. They have bags, so it's different. You know, I've never felt it before. It's not necessarily like, you know, real horsehair. It's artificial horsehair. So that being said, you know, I just got to put it out there. I thought it was originally a horsehair, but it's an artificial horsehair. Not a big deal. In terms of the other padding, it's going to be an EVA, a latex, and a foam. So the padding itself is not necessarily all that thick, as you can see. The glove itself is actually a very, very compact glove. So when it comes to the actual, you know, the horsehair, artificial horsehair bags, I didn't really, when I talk about the padding later, you'll see that it's not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily give you that horsehair feel. It kind of gives you more of a feel where it's a medium to firm padding that allows you to kind of sink in your shots a little bit, but not pierce through with your hands too much. So just letting you know on that end. I would say the style of the glove is interesting. I know that they have essentially, it's like an Aztec type of influence, like a Mexican type of influence, I'm sure, to the glove. But the glove itself is kind of different. Like when I think about the style of the glove, I think about, you know, the thumb. The thumb's very thin. I know it's a split here. It has a nice like 2 design here, and it's a split thumb. But the thumb itself is smaller. The cuff is, you know, like they have their own cuff here. This cuff design's theirs. This kind of indentation here, which is pretty cool. But in terms of maybe it's the compact size and the fact that it's meant to be somewhat of a puncher's glove that is the inspiration here. But ultimately, it's a glove that I think it's its own kind of glove. You know, that's the truth. When I compare it to the other glove in terms of sizing, you can automatically see the difference in size, right? On the site, you obviously you don't have the same things. This glove is obviously different than this glove. This doesn't have the same type of stitching patterns and stuff like that. They have some of their cuffs, but after that, that's about it. This is a thinner glove. They might be close to the same height in terms of height, but it's very thin here. Thicker glove here, thicker padding here, you know, thinner here, thinner thumb here, bigger thumb. This is not a split, you know, design thumb here. You could obviously see that. The laces are the same essentially, but just ultimately, like, you know, the grip bars are different. You know, this glove is very different than the other glove, which surprised me, and it surprised me in a good way. So it's not like a negative thing, or I'm not saying anything too negative, but I think it was fantastic that, you know, it is a completely different glove in my opinion. So you have the design in Taiwan marker here with the leather mark as well here. 16-ounce indicator here. Love that, love that, love that. Also, just FYI, you can see even in the stitching patterns that they're different as well. So this has like a stitching pattern outward, inward. This one's more to the side. So I don't know if you could see that very well, but I don't want this to be too much of a comparison video. I just know that some people are going to ask me essentially what are some of the differences. So I gotta tell them before I have to, you know, hopefully they don't have to ask the questions too much in the comments, because I know that that's something I would ask myself. And in terms of the actual stitching, this is really, really good stitching, guys. And I'm saying like really good in terms of how clean it is. You can actually see just overall, just like there is no real issues here. This double stitching is very, very nice. I love these laces. Extremely thick, you know, decently long. I wish they were a little bit longer, but they are nice and thick and stretchy. So I give them all that. In terms of other stuff like the grip bar here, it's a little bit on the, I would say, a little smaller, and I would say medium density. So I wish, in my opinion, it was more of like the grip bar from the Super Samurais, but this is okay. I mean, this is a smaller glove, so I don't think for a small glove, you're going to put a bigger grip bar like you have on the other glove, but you could feel it, and it's no big deal. So in terms of the air holes here, obviously you have 4 on bottom, 4 on top. That's 8 grip holes here. In terms of the thumb, there's quite a bit on the thumb as well. I could see probably 4 right off the jump. I don't know if you can. but it is very nicely ventilated, so the glove itself isn't something that I believe made my hands hot or anything like that, so that's obviously a plus. The thumb of the glove, you see, has a nice curved inward. It looked small to me at first, but essentially it does a pretty good job at kind of curving your hand inward, and my thumb doesn't actually reach the tip. So even for a really compact glove like this, I think this is extremely compact. I think this is a glove that looks like a fight, especially when I put it on. For my bigger frame, it looks like I'm wearing a fight glove. And essentially these are 16 ounces. So really cool. A really good job on this point, because that's the kind of glove I kind of look for sometimes, especially for the mitts and things like that. So that being said, you see that the punch kind of dynamics of the glove, you'll see that it has kind of more of like your hands are in a punching position. You can see that the padding here, not too thick, but not, you know, crazy thin or anything like that. It's pretty good for its size. The cuff here, it has a decent amount of padding here. It's softer than that Super Samurai model. As you can see, I can squish it a little bit. But ultimately, it's probably about a half an inch or so on the back, and then probably like a quarter of an inch or 1/3 of an inch in the front. Softer padding. So the wrist protection ultimately isn't as strong as the other one, but I think that's fine, because I actually sometimes prefer some of these softer gloves. They're more comfortable, and you're able to essentially get a lot of your shots. You can move them a lot easier, so it's pretty good. Now, when it comes to the comfort of the glove, once you put your hands in the glove, they're comfortable. These gloves, like I said, they're compact. So for me, I have medium-sized hands, so, you know, slipping them in and out right now, because I had to tie them up recently, is a little bit of a struggle, but you could obviously open up your laces and you won't have that issue. Now, obviously, things that I do love about things like gloves like this is instantly I could feel that it's a snug glove. You're going to have to break it in, and once you break them in, you'll be able to then put your stuff, your hand wraps and your knuckle guards in there, but you do have to break them in. But what I love about them is just how freeing your hand is. This is very important for me when I am using gloves. I like the freeness, the freedom of the hand. That's really important to me. The thumb, like I said before, comfortable. You see that there is no pulling down the thumb, even if I'm closing my hands. There is no yanking down on the thumb, so you see that right away, no problem. Give you a different profile look of the glove. Once I'm clamped down, has a nice flat punch surface. Once I'm open, this is me open, not without actually moving my hands. This is just how it looks. And then when I open, they get a little higher when they're normal, when they're closed. Same here, open all the way, middle, close. So in terms of the punch surface, I do like that a lot. I will say the fingertip compartment has this feel, it feels like a piece of neoprene here, or just a flat piece of something that's covering the stitching area, but it's also really comfortable on the fingertips, so you're able to clamp down on it, and you can feel the grip bar. It's not like you can't, but I've always preferred bigger grip bars. I don't believe that the thumb here is too tight. Some people might, because it does have a, you know, if it started off here and got up to this portion, you might have a more free thumb. But yeah, I could feel the piping here, but it's breaking in little by little. So in terms of that, I don't think it's a problem either. Now, I want to get to ultimately the sound or the feel of the glove. So let me see if I can get a nice pop out of it. So, interestingly enough, it doesn't have those characteristics of like a super horsehair glove. It does have more of a characteristic of a multi-layer glove with some horsehair in it. Now, what I mean by that is that I'm here, and this is kind of a, in my opinion, medium to firm padding. You know, when you first touch it, you think it's soft, but once you start putting your fingers to it, you can see that it is like a medium to firm. So it's very protective on the knuckles. And it does give you a nice feel when you're hitting the bag. But ultimately, this is not like a normal horsehair glove. And on the website, it doesn't describe it as that either. So The one thing I like about this glove is that the website does do a really good job of describing the properties of the glove and essentially the feel of the glove, and how, you know, when you do hit the glove, you can feel your knuckles kind of punching downward and kind of piercing through a little bit, but it doesn't go to the point where you're piercing all the way through. It stops you. So ultimately, really, really good glove. If you're into protective gloves, gloves that feel like horsehair, but they're more protective. Gloves that are very compact, like a fight glove. This is probably something that you really got to be looking at. This is a killer on the bags. It's a killer on the mitts. And sparring, if you want a smaller glove, I don't have a problem with this one because of the padding composition. You know, maybe when they start breaking down, you might have a problem. But essentially, for me, I think this is even okay for sparring if you're into a really compact glove for sparring. Now, in terms of the price, it's just the best part about the glove. The glove itself is obviously very, very well priced. Anywhere between, I think, $119 to $128, depending on, I'm sure, the sizing of the glove, whether it's 16 ounces or whatever. Plus, probably, for me, it was $30 for shipping from Taiwan. I definitely think that these gloves are completely 100% worth it. I wouldn't take, like, obviously I had a better discount than that because I chose a glove that they didn't want to sell me due to the imperfections. So just put that into perspective, that even I got a better deal just because I chose a glove that they necessarily said wasn't up to par in their standards, but I didn't care because I really wanted that glove. So in terms of final thoughts, I think it's a great glove. I think you got to buy the glove, honestly, test it out. You know, if you can buy two. Some gloves are so expensive nowadays. I can get this glove and I can get this glove, and this could be my sparring slash, you know, bag work, and this could be just my mitts and bag work glove. And they'll still be a lot cheaper than some of the gloves that you got, and they're still really, really great gloves. So in my opinion, you know, we're looking at, you know, some really, really good gloves, and it's like I want to jump on them and get them all before they get to a point where they get so popular that, you know, the price is gonna inflate. But definitely worth it. Definitely a glove that I think I really enjoy, you know. So I would recommend it 100% if you can get your hands on them. I know they sell out quickly. I know if once they sell out, it takes a long time once they're back ordered, it takes a long time to get them. So if you see them, grab them, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion. So that's my review, guys. Reaper Faith gloves. I'm a humongous fan of Reaper Faith gloves now, and yeah, I'm excited to, you know, review more of these gloves in the future. So there you go.